folks who watch Cordkillers and even those who don't watch Cordkillers, welcome to the Cordkillers spin-off show, Spoilerin Time, where we take all the hard work of figuring out how to watch things and then talk about the things we watched. This week, we'll be talking about She-Hulk, Season 1, Episode 6, Rick and Morty, Season 6, Episode 4, and Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 5. I'm Tom Merritt. That man right there is Brian Brushwood.
And I continue to be deeply in love with Lower Decks.
Let's start by talking about Star Trek Lower Decks, where we find out Rutherford had a dark secret personality. I was shocked.
Yeah, what's funny is I've never noticed the season album art for this season. That it's like you've got Tendi and Boimler and Mariner, and you've got some kind of like figure overhead, and it took me a moment to squint and realize it's Rutherford, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that's about. This episode, we found out this suggests to me that this will not be the last we see of alternate punk rock,
alternate
young
Rutherford.
Yeah.
Because we've been dealing with things seeping out of Rutherford's implant, like for all 3 seasons, right? We keep finding out more and more has been buried under there.
Yeah, I like that it didn't waste a lot of our time setting everything up. It's like, no, look, we're in this space. Don't you get it? This, that, the other thing. I was a bit surprised that the nefarious, just plant a memory, making them think this was voluntary, turned out not to be an illusion, but an actual, what appears to be canonical truth in some kind of interesting backstory for Rutherford.
Yeah.
I rather like this. I don't believe this is a one-off appearance and disappearance of young alternate Rutherford. I would like to believe that it becomes like a switch that he can hit and be a more interesting person when he needs it.
Oh, I don't think he'll be able to control it for a while, though. Next time it shows up, yeah.
Right, but it will, like, I don't believe that personality is totally wiped, because obviously it was there, somewhere in the subconscious.
Right. When will it reassert itself? That was actually a fairly intriguing mystery story set next to Mariner and Boimler working the Starfleet recruitment booth, which was absolutely hilarious, especially if you've ever worked any kind of booth like that.
I might have supported my wife in a similar booth less than a week ago. It's very difficult.
From the headlines.
It's very difficult to stand and say hello.
And then the archaeologist who was, I kept waiting for there to be a Vash reference to the character from Next Generation, and they didn't. They resisted. But it was a very Vash-like character, an archaeologist who wants to steal stuff, a potential love interest for Mariner in future episodes. But I just love the softballs that she was lobbing at Starfleet, and doing that things the Lower Decks does, where they sort of take the piss out of Starfleet.
Yeah, I don't know if it read like a love interest so much as setting up a buddy adventure or needing to call in a favor or something.
Yeah, either one. It sort of left it undetermined.
But I'll tell you what, man, it's difficult to introduce 2 in-depth characters and have them both be instantly understandable and likable in one 23-minute episode, and that's what we got with young Rutherford and the archaeologist.
All right.
Or the grave robber.
Bryce, you're very silent.
No, I dug it. I did. Part of me was like, okay, I get it. He was like a street tough. He really cared about having he cared about having a tuner.
What did his boss call him? Baby bear?
Yes, baby bear. And like, that was really interesting. And like, there's a very interesting conspiracy they set up with, well, how did that car explode? How did the implants and all that stuff? But I did feel like they really did walk past what seemed like a good plot point, which was like, why does Rutherford have such a completely about-face personality? Is it just because that old version of him is so much in the past that Rutherford earnestly has changed and, has a different outlook? Or is that part of the conspiracy to make him hoorah?
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling that question they were saving to be answered in a future story.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're all of the same mind that this is not the last we see of this thread. I do know that biologically speaking, when one left hemisphere, right hemisphere gets damaged, full-on personality changes for good or for ill can happen. So somebody in this, I think the dude who had a railroad spike explode and go through his head became really just more like young Rutherford, whereas old Rutherford maybe was the inverse of that, with half of his brain occupied. You're left only with the cheerful hide-no
Okie
neighbor.
dokie.
Yeah.
But is that our real Rutherford?
Yeah.
I mean, do 4 people liking your new personality erase the old you?
I mean, here's the great thing is that they've set up so many possibilities by acknowledging that this is Star Trek. Could be we get 2 Rutherfords. Could be we get a fused Rutherford. Could be we get an army of Rutherfords.
Rutherfused.
Is that Rutherford we saw from the past this time actually what that Rutherford was like, or is it just the parts that were removed concentrated, right?
Or yeah, like it's how the left hemisphere remembers the whole person being, and whereas he's right hemisphere, and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and Ken from Chicago reminds us we have 2 Boimlers.
That's true.
I do like the way Supernova Girl put it. We have Rutherford and Otherford.
Oh, that's what they're gonna call him. Hey, is this Rutherford or the Otherford?
I feel dumb not coining that myself. Yeah,
that's great.
Quite obviously Otherford.
Go ahead.
Are we gonna get an entire mirror crew out of this? Like, if we do get a transporter solution to Otherford, and then we have another Boimler, we just need another Tendi and another Mariner. We got a whole lower decks copy.
We kind of got that this very episode, didn't we? Because we set up a construct where there was a mental
right,
race
because he
happening.
had he won by having his crewmates with him.
Right.
Our Rutherford, yeah.
But that would be a cool trap to lay for us, where 2 more years from now, just these fragments from past stories all come together to be like the reverse A team and come in. That would be amazing.
That's cool.
Did you did you guys notice? I feel like Star Trek Lower Decks is generally pretty up there in terms of like animation fidelity. They do a lot of shading, they do a lot of colors, they really go out of their way to make it look interesting. I thought it was a very interesting touch to, maybe it was intentional, for Rutherford, the reflection in the mirror, to not actually be reflected. His implant is always on the same side. So when Otherford looked at Rutherford, the implant would be catty corner from each other.
Oh, that's wild.
So it wasn't a reflection, it was an illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was as though he had stepped out, turned around, and faced himself.
Was looking at himself, yeah.
It wasn't a mirror image. It was the Rutherford was standing there, and
And which makes sense. He wasn't looking at his shadow, wasn't talking to him, or his reflection.
Right.
Or was it?
Yeah, I didn't notice that. It was a good catch. Anything else on Star Trek Lower Decks?
It's good.
It is. It's good. Star Trek Lower Decks, Episode 5, Season 3. Let's talk about Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 4, Night Family, against a thing that I am also very concerned with: rinsing your god-darn dishes.
It only takes 2 seconds.
It gets stuck. It's harder to wash. Just do it, folks. It was like a public service announcement from Rick and Morty. If I didn't appreciate anything else about this episode, which I did, that would have been enough for me.
So, how many of you guys immediately latched on to the very Severance-like plot line?
Oh, yes. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I immediately was like, okay, this is a Severance episode. Why is it called Night Family? And then I noticed that it also is a zombie episode, and they weren't going for a Severance parody, but they certainly used the conceit of a separated personality that you don't communicate with other than Jerry.
So there are 2 elements that fuse together that here's what I speculate. The lead time on animation is so long that almost certainly this can't be a response to Severance. It just has to be coincidence that it's a day family, night family, and all that. Everything else about this was a love letter to John Carpenter. from the score to his habit of fading out and then fading back in to show time delay and all that stuff. I was like, wow, what a departure for all this. I wonder, and then the credits roll and it says written by Rob Schrab. And I'm like, of course, Rob Schrab. Some of you guys have seen some of the fake horror movie t-shirts that I wear. Those are all Rob Schrab. He was co-writer on Heat Vision and Jack and Scud the Disposable Assassin. I loved it.
And they continued to tell the story. Did you pay attention to the stills that were up during the credits?
During the credits, yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Bryce?
Oh, and there was the after credits, or I guess it was like after credits because the credits were very fast.
Yeah. What was the after credit scene?
It was where all the asleep people realize, oh, we can't function. We're not paying bills. We don't know how to pay bills. What the hell?
We spent all this money on trips to France.
Really, so great because that ending, it starts off ambiguous. Like, what decision did Rick make? And then you're watching, because it's all that very little detail in their eyes, like, oh, no, he lost. Wait, how are they going to do this?
He refused.
This is a show where they care about that.
And they travel all over the world, and you could just barely tell that they've got the bloodshot eyes.
Yeah. That was a perfect finish. Like, I was so good. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to reset all this? And of course, they have to, I don't know, existentially kill themselves to shoot the machine.
Every so often we get an episode of Rick and Morty that is such a perfect bottle episode. Of season 1, it's the one where the devil moves into town and you pay for everything with your soul, and you don't have to know anything about the show, and you could totally like, oh, I get what they're doing. This is another one of those episodes. You could take somebody who ain't never heard of Rick and Morty, and they'll get everything.
Yeah, agreed. The fact that Rick and Morty both just want washboard abs.
How did you enjoy their podcast where they're doing the ad read and Morty points out, oh, they want you to say wubba lubba dub dub. He's like, whatever.
We're not whores.
Too real.
Yes.
It's only a podcaster would write that.
Yes, exactly. That's what I thought. I'm like, oh, that's taken from real experience from Harmon. Yeah, man. I don't know. The fight scenes also were another notable point where
the fight scene at the end is so good.
They hit each other and alternately wake themselves up or knock themselves out.
Yeah. And it's clear that they can't tell who is who, and they are just attacking each other blindly. It's such a great moment, and it's so short. Oh, it's such a good episode.
It's genius.
It's dense. I can't wait. This is one of those that I suspect will be heavy on the rewatch rotation.
Absolutely. It's so dense that I have little else to say other than go watch and soak in it and enjoy. Anything else from y'all?
Yeah, you know what? We could talk about just the general difficulty in seeing this show. I buy it, and I'm starting to feel entitled to see it on Sunday nights. And it only shows up Monday mornings.
Belissa wrote us a great email, just kind of sharing that frustration of like, why do I have to wait for the release day? I mean, on the one hand, they have to release things at some time, right? So if everything's coming out at 3 a.m, that's annoying, but at least it's coming out for everyone. With Rick and Morty, what you're pointing out is I watch it on Sunday night because I record it on a DVR from DirecTV Stream. But since you pay for it individually, you have to wait until an arbitrary midnight deadline for it to drop.
And on top of that, so then I want to picture like, okay, what's Amazon going to do to make Brian Brushwood happy? Are they going to go to Adult Swim and say, hey, we'd like to release it the same time you do? And Adult Swim says, I'm sorry, last time we checked, our advertisers pay us because we're the only place to see it at this time slot. No, we're not going to let you release it at the same time.
I think the day later thing will partly go away as linear streaming becomes less important, because Rick and Morty should, by all rights, just show up on HBO Max, right? That's where it should show up, because that's the company that has it. I think that'll eventually happen. On the other hand, buying a season, I think, is always going to be a day later, because they want to incentivize you to subscribe to the streaming platform that it's on first before buying the seasons.
Which perversely will cost more money, be more inconvenient, force me to watch ads, and I won't own the episodes. So,
well, it won't be more. Do you get HBO Max already?
I do.
So if it, in this case, you wouldn't have to watch ads and you wouldn't have to pay more money than you're already paying. You'd pay less.
But what if I like the ads being cut out and available on Amazon.com?
But they don't have ads on HBO Max either.
Yeah, but I'm only free riding on HBO Max because I have AT&T. What happens if I go to T-Mobile?
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs that could throw you under the bus.
I think you'll get free Netflix if you do that.
All right, that sounds pretty good.
You get Apple TV and Netflix free on T-Mobile.
The camera pans back, and you guys are at booths. we're at a cable fair.
Yeah, this is not a light. This is my T-Mobile store, bro.
Yeah, no, but it is annoying right now. The weird release schedules of things. Like, I don't think we've hit on a best practice of, should it come out at broadcast time like HBO does? House of the Dragon shows up for me at 6 p.m. on Sunday on HBO Max. Should it show up, at midnight? And if it's midnight, is it midnight Eastern or is it midnight Pacific? Like Disney Plus puts it out midnight Pacific, which means 3 a.m. Eastern. Or should it be at a convenient time for people to watch it? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Just put it out when it airs.
But when does it air if it never airs?
Just put it out.
When do you want it out?
Just put it out when it airs.
Put it out now.
Put it out.
Rhonda, I've lost the remote again. Whose cat is this?
That is Rick and Morty, season 6, episode 4.
Rick and Morty.
Let's talk about She-Hulk, season 1, episode 6, Just Jen, where Jen is a bridesmaid at a friend's wedding, but is not allowed to be She-Hulk at the wedding because that would upstage the bride, and therefore her dress doesn't fit.
I had a great time this episode. I love all these episodes. I love She-Hulk. Screw you, everybody. The world is broken, and only She-Hulk can fix it. It's the best thing ever. I don't care.
No one disagrees with you. It's a great show. So why did you like this episode differently than the other ones you love?
Oh my God! First of all, curse your bones, Bryce Castillo, for pointing out that everything's been ADR'd on
Jamila. Yes, get her ass. I knew it.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And if I was going to take a guess, and now that I see it, I suspect that she did everything with her natural voice, and they just decided that
to change it later.
Well, because she sounds, inherently classy and British and awesome, and if they want to make her unlikable, a Valley Girl accent.
You're talking about Titania, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Also, I love the fact that Jen just owns how shallow she's being and how this is going to be a bottle episode. I love the fact that comically Titania slips and bashes out her veneers and looks like a bucktooth weirdo, and it's adorable. There's nothing I don't love about this series.
I watched the episode and I had a great time, and I was talking about it on our Discord, discord.greatnight.tv. We have a whole thing for it. It's Spoilerin time, and I was like, hey, I watched this. What happened in that? What happened again? There was a wedding. Yeah. I guess there was a fight.
There was a wedding,
and then
in which Jen was not allowed to be herself because of her selfish friend who she barely knows, and Titania tried to take advantage of that.
And when I watched the episode the second time, and embarrass her, I thought, oh, hey, you know what? This episode works because it's just funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's not any of the things I wanted after last week. There's no illegal stuff. We don't see the costumes. Really.
The legal stuff's in the B plot,
I beg
right?
to differ. Mr. Immortal is
Mr.
hilarious.
Immortal with Nikki and Mallory.
Which,
that was great. Oh, no, that was perfect. It doesn't matter that that's not really how lawyers act at all. That was really, really good.
Also, a little potential future strife there with Nikki impressing Mallory with her ability to resolve that, and I don't know. I feel like they're going to try to steal Nikki away from Jen.
Oh.
I believe it.
But Nikki wouldn't do that.
No, but there's certainly precedent for misunderstandings.
That's true. By the way, okay. 2 moments of the episode. When she's so drunk, she's 5 sheets to the wind, and she's trying to turn into the Hulk, and she, I forgot how to do it.
And she's gonna sober up as soon as she becomes the Hulk, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the F of it all, right? It's like, oh, you're so drunk you can't become the Hulk, but if you become the Hulk, you won't be drunk, but you can't become the Hulk.
So Coyote Brown in the chat brings something up that I only noticed for the very first time this episode, and maybe they only did it in this episode, but it looked an awful lot like they were doing some Lord of the Rings episode 1 forced perspective stuff to make every man look gigantic compared to itty bitty Jen by putting him closer to the screen or whatever. And I also loved seeing Jen walk around in the same dress that barely fits on She-Hulk. Is just like a baggy muumuu on her.
Well, especially because they set it up as like, this dress is going to look awesome. Oh my gosh, that dress looks awesome. The only reason I'm going to this wedding is to wear that dress. And then she has to wear it as Jen.
Yeah.
I forgot what my second thing was, but this is a good episode.
Okay, I'm glad you figured it. Yeah. I do want to sue Disney for ripping off our now Great Night, formerly Night Attack character, the world record holder for the most divorces, the D-Man.
Well, that guy never got divorces. He was a dead man. He was another D-man.
The other D.
The other D-man.
I like Mr. Immortal's way of dealing with everything, which is just kill himself. But everyone knows he's Mr. Immortal.
Also, it was very funny that guy is playing the exact same character he plays on Veep. Tom, did you?
He's Veep's husband.
Yeah,
right?
the ex-husband.
Yeah,
Andrew.
yeah.
That was great. I hope that guy doesn't get typecast as that character forever. But maybe.
Well, who knows?
The electric slide.
Oh,
The electric slide. All of the music during the fight.
Oh, yeah.
the wedding music, music during the fight. Yeah.
What was his name? The
like
Incredible
typical wedding
Hulk?
reception. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
was good.
For whatever reason, in the 20-song canon of wedding songs, the electric slide, I couldn't sing it to save my life. Yeah.
It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie.
Yeah, I remember.
And
then you clap at some point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody clap.
That's a different one.
That's a different one, Tom.
That's also at weddings, though, and I really wish they had used that at this one.
Yeah.
The photo that Bryce is showing right now, when the awkward hug and his face mashed into She-Hulk's chest is amazing.
I kind of didn't get Patty Harrison's character. The Lulu, the friend who's getting married.
And wants to make it all about her. And
I got that, and then it just seemed like I didn't understand at the end when she was just okay with it, and
I
she was
think what they were
stroking
implying,
out, or
so at a wedding, and I think Tom will back me up on this. It's the weirdest thing. You put all the energy into planning, and then as it happens, it's like a Great Night gig. Like you don't remember a dang thing. You just roll with whatever's happening, and you're drunk the entire time.
Yeah, and you're so drunk that you forget all of your plans and
what
worries.
What you told people they had to and didn't have to do, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, Did the wedding even happen?
I don't believe we saw it.
We certainly didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it happened off screen. Because I feel like we were at the reception. We suddenly went from the pre-wedding party rehearsal dinner stuff to the reception, and they just didn't want to bore us with the details.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What about this intelligentsia thing? You guys interested in this?
That felt
red pills conspiracy
thing. A long ago, I knew of sites that would require you to prove that you're a terrible person to get into.
Yeah.
And
were they Reddit.com? Were they just Reddit.com?
Well, no, because Reddit.com, you can wander into any subreddit you please. This is more, I don't know, darker than
Onion
something
router
awful
kind of stuff.
Something awful or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because they're clearly setting up a big thing with that.
Yeah.
But then they were very loose on like, what is it? It is a website, but then another part of it is like a PUA or I don't know, a
pickup
thing.
artist thing.
Yeah, I didn't get.
Well, but it's basically using the website is used to organize and give missions, and then the things happen in real life to train people, and that all made sense to me. It made perfect sense.
And you know what's funny, Bryce, is it never occurred to me in the moment that this was a setup for a future thing. I thought it was just sort of a nod to because I'd run across some of those gross, dead corpses.
Oh yeah, no, I also felt like it was a nod to that as a way of building a future threat.
Yeah.
Against her that is not Titania. We've been misled to think Titania is the big bad, and Titania is not.
Oh, they're
There was
probably
that
gonna have
shot-
to team up at the end or something.
Oh, that'd actually be pretty funny.
Yeah.
They'd hate
Yeah.
that. That'd be great. No, there's a shot at the end where there's like a scientists in a clean room or something, and at the end you see the website and.
There is an organization funding that website
What
to
if it's-
get people to do the things to it's a very like the FSB funding the Lithuanian hackers who do
The thing we see at the end is a improved needle to get DNA, because remember they did it the first time and the needle bent
in her skin.
on
Yeah.
her skin.
Right.
So now,
And now
it's
they're
more
gonna
like
do it for real.
a meat tenderizing injector thing that is
Yeah,
gonna
the
be
guy
used.
the guy that was nice to her at the wedding, I was very suspicious of throughout the entire episode.
I don't know. He was so big though.
I want that to work. I want Jen to be. I want her to have it all.
Bryce, I noticed how handsome he was.
I want her to have it all. No, that's an interesting thing She-Hulk is doing. It is trying to do she's trying to have it all story, especially this week. And it's really, well, I don't know. It's kind of hitting us over the head. Like the great conversation that she has with the bride of like, so what are you up to? Oh, I'm a famous lawyer and like I have superpowers and stuff. And she goes, no. I mean, like, do you have a man or
Like a
anything?
guy?
A guy.
And she says no, and then this visible relief comes over her.
Oh, you'll find somebody.
That was great.
Yeah. No, that was very good. No, I think the awesome guy, I would love it to work out as well, Bryce, but
Don't
won't.
Don't play with me, Tom.
He's evil. He's evil.
I'm being vulnerable to Marvel
I
again.
know.
I'm
I
calling
know.
it. I think
just like Jen.
I think Tom's right. I think nice guy turns out to be a bad guy. I think She-Hulk has to team up with Titania.
What if oh no, the new guy we saw this episode is the bad guy, and then the guy who dumped her after that like nice date, he ends up like redeeming himself. Ugh.
Also, what if he has superpowers and that's why he was only into She-Hulk?
Ugh.
These are all possibilities.
Gag me with a super spoon.
All right, that is She-Hulk Season 1, Episode 6. Next time we meet, we shall discuss She-Hulk Season 1, Episode 7, but also Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 5, and Lower Decks Episode 6 of Season 3. That's all next week. She-Hulk, Rick and Morty, and Lower Decks. You can get those episodes the earliest if you're a patron at patreon.com/Cordkillers. So why haven't you signed up? Why wouldn't you sign up? Go do it right now. Until next time, we'll spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.